Today, what we're going to see today is how to set up an elevator control with the KT-400 via special edition or corporate. The scenario we're about to see today is going to be two cabs of 8 floors on each. The scenario we're going to use, we're going to have a floor group number 1, which is going to be the floors 1, 3, 5, 7, and they will have an unlock schedule from Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 1700 hours. And the second floor group will have an unlock schedule from 7:30 in the morning until 12, so that will be for floors 2, 4, 6, and 8. And what is required to do this little scenario, we would need 2 KT module RL8, or we can use 1 KT module output 16. The only difference between the two, the output 16, you would actually need to have KT RM1 relays connected to the outputs. With the module RL8, the relays are already included on the board. And if we do a little quick calculation, the max of cabs floor we can have per cab, it's 64 floors per cab. So if we're using a module RL8, so we can have a total max of 8 max, or if we use the output 16, we can have a maximum of 4 connected per cab. So, and if we really want to do the control of a module, we want to have per controllers. So on one controller we can have up to 32 KT module RL8 or 16 module output 16. For each of those we will require additional power supply of 12 volts 1 amp or better, because what we have to make attention is if the SPI module is pulling over 500 milliamps, then in that case you will require to have an external power supply to power up your modules. And as a quick reference, what we could see in the manual on page 22, it gave us a a little drawing on depending what you're going to be connected on the SPA module, if you're connecting input module, output module, or relay modules. And also what is very useful, there's a little tool at the end, and it tells you depending on the module that you're using, then how much current it will be pulling. In our scenario for today, since we're using the KT module RL8, so we know one module is pulling 350 milliamps. So there's a pretty quick calculation that we could do. So 2 module of RL8 times 330 milliamps, so that gives us 660 milliamps. So in theory, we would require an external power supply to operate those 2 relay modules. So that's the first thing. So the next thing what we're going to see, it's in the software how we're going to configure those relay modules for the elevator control. So the first thing we need to do is to go on the devices controller, and from that we're going to always activate the hierarchy. It's always better like that way when you traveling through the software. So you select your gateway, then you select your controller, then after that you select is your controller KT number 1, then we're going to go to the KT-400 tab, expansion module configuration, and then from here we're going to define our modules. So now the first module that we have, we're going to set it as use as elevator equipment. Elevator door is going to be 01, controller 1, door 1, that represent cab number 1. And the relays, we're going to use output 1 through 8. Those going to represent the first 8 floors. So if we select the relay module number 2, this is going to still be used as elevator equipment, and this is going to be connected to operate door number 2, and the relay is still going to be the same thing. It's still going to be output 1 through 8. So that's the first thing. So now once this is done, that we can save it. And the next thing we need to do is to go under the elevator tab, and then from here we're going to define our floors. One thing we have to keep in mind, the floors, those are only labeled. They are not necessarily mean like, that's the real floor that we're going through. It's only labels that we have to define. So to make it easier for this for the purpose, we're just going to label our floors. So from here we're going to create a new floor. So this one is going to be floor number 1, and then from that we could save, and we're going to do the same thing for the other ones. Okay, so good thing our floors has been labeled. So this is the pattern. This is if we have like different pattern that we could create. So at this point, what I have defined here, 1 through 8, that will implement on all 4 doors. For the moment, I'm only using cabs 1 and 2. So by putting it there, so it will be applied to all of the floors. So now the floors are done. The floors are created. So now the next thing we need to go under definition. That's the other way. If we didn't define the floor the quick way, we will have to select our site and then from that define all the floors. We just did that. So now the next thing is to go define our groups. So remember, we have 2 floor groups that we wanted to define. So floor group number 1, by default there's always the all floors, which is already active in the system by default when you define them. So now we have to define 2 floors. The first floor that we're going to find, that was floor group number 1. Floor group number 1, this one will include floor 1, 3, 5, and 7. So this, we can save it now. We need to create another floor. This one is going to be floor group number 2. So once we got our floor group number 2, we're going to select the floors 2, 4, 6, 8. So now those floors are done. So now the next thing we wanted to do, so what we said, they're going to have an unlock schedule for floor group number 1 and floor group number 2. By default, there's always the always valid that is in the software. So we're going to create our new schedules. So this is going to be scheduled for floor number 1. And floor group number 1, we said is going to be from 0800 hours until 1700 hours. And this is going to be Monday through Friday. We check what we want. Now new schedule for floor group number 2. And we want it from 7:30 until 12. And we want it from Monday through Friday also. So now our schedule is defined, our floor groups are defined, our floors are defined, our elevator equipment is defined. So now the next thing we need to go on the devices door. On the devices door, we're going to select our gateways, then select our sites, KT-400, select our controller, and then select your door number 1. Door number 1, that's going to be cab number 1. Very important on the miscellaneous to check the elevator cab. So once the elevator cab is checked, we could save that. So we're going to check, select door number 2, and make sure to check elevator cab also. So elevator cab is going to be representing door number 2. That's cab number 2, and then we save that. So now once we select the elevator tab, we have another tab that came up. That's the unlock. That's the elevator cab tab that came up. So the first thing we could do for door number 1, we can set the unlock schedule. So if we set the unlock schedule for that floor, so first we need to select the floor number 1, and then the schedule that we wanted. The schedule we wanted, we wanted the schedule for floor group number 1. So we select it, and then from that, once we save, it's going to unlock those floors. So as you see, we got an event that says door unlocked by schedule. So now what we're going to do, the next thing, we're going to select our door number 2, and then we're going to apply the unlock schedule on it. So once we get the floor group number 2, and then we select our schedule, floor group number 2, and then from that we save. Okay, the schedule is not valid at the moment because it's 4:30 in the afternoon. So that's the reason why it's not working. So now in order for people to get access to that door, they would need to swipe the cards and have a valid access in order to get in. But to validate the access, one thing that we need to do, so we need to go under users and then select the user in question. So let's say for the time being, we're going to test my card. So now we're going to get a bad access level. So now the only thing I need to do is to edit my card. Once my card is edited, so there is no access level that is assigned to my card. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to create a new access level. So the new access level, I'm going to call it test for floor group number 2. So now for floor group number 2, so actually the schedule that I want, I can say like I want to go to that floor all the time, always valid, I have access to it. Which floor? Only floor group number 2. So which means during that time, that car will have access only to the floors 2, 4, 6, and 8. So now if I swipe my card on reader 2, I get an access granted, and at this point my floors are available for me to go. And one other thing, we can verify if the schedules are properly applied. We could go under operation elevator door, and then from that we're going to see 2 doors listed. So the first one, it's on a schedule at the moment, so that's why you have the it shows, you can do the status to see exactly what it says. So now the status tells us the door is closed, normal condition, the door is unlocked by schedule, and the floors are enabled, which is correct because it's on the schedule now. Once we can do the same thing for door number 2, which is cap number 2, and then do a full status. So it tells us the door is closed, normal condition, door enabled, floor enabled. But now if somebody wants to go to the other floors, they would need actually to swipe the card to get access to the door to the floors that is not on schedule at the moment. So which means floor number 2, 4, 6, and 8. And this was how simple it is to set an elevator control with the Intropass Corporate and using module RL8.